So much love and appreciation to those of you who have been with me for the 2 year period plus that I've been doing this. Thank you for showing your love and support to the channel. And to anybody else who is brand new to the platform and you would like to support the channel, also, you can do it by way of Patreon, Anchor, the clothing store, and also the shoe shop that is listed in the comment description below. And again, thank you to any and all of you guys who have been here to support this channel during the 2+ year period. I wouldn't be able to do what I do every single day without you. Argument at a gas station last week escalated to physical violence and eventually led to a woman crashing her vehicle into another car while a 7-month-old child was in the back seat. The incident began earlier on Tuesday morning when police at Van Buren Township, Michigan, reported that two women met at a Shell gas station to exchange children's clothing. What initially led up to the hostility is unclear, but one of the women who arrived in a black SUV approached another 26-year-old Araya Bennett and called her a burnt piece of toast. From there, the two began to attack one another, at one point throwing punches. As the fight wore on, Bennett got into a vehicle and crashed it into another woman's SUV. A 7-month-old child was in the back seat of Bennett's vehicle, though it is unclear if the child was hers, as another woman in the car with her earlier in the security footage. She also hit a burgundy van owned by an innocent bystander. Him Low was attempting to get gas. Went over and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? The moment she initially heard Bennett's tires screeching. Someone can do that with a baby in a car, I just can't believe. After colliding with the vehicles, Bennett reportedly got out and got a bat out of the back of her trunk. From there, she began striking the front windshield of the black SUV, all while another woman pled about her child still being in the car. The child was eventually pulled to safety while the incident carried on. Lulo later stated that she felt lucky that Bennett had grabbed a bat and not a weapon. Quote, well, the way that they are with weapons nowadays, I mean, you just don't know. Arrested shortly after the incident after Van Buren Township police were able to identify her. She now faces felony charges, including malicious destruction of property and 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon, as well as several misdemeanors. The other woman involved in the initial spat is not currently facing charges and has not been publicly identified. Police confirmed to multiple outlets that the 7-month-old child was not injured during the incident. Bennett has since been released from jail on a personal bond and is due back in court sometime next week. I just had to add this in real quick. Now, beyond the fact of how ridiculous this is, this further goes into the main thing that I've stated before, and I'm going to continue to show proof of, where you have a lot of black women out here that want to state that, oh, there's a sisterhood, there's this, there's that. And as the days go by, I'm seeing less and less of that sisterhood and more of black women treating each other like enemies. And then on top of the fact where you have black women out here that want to talk about, oh, the femicide rate and all of these other things, the main thing that I've noticed is that it only accounts for black women and young black girls. But I guess this child doesn't count because I'm guessing more than likely it must have been a boy. It must have been a male child. So it doesn't really matter what happens to those male children because they're not adding into those statistics. And on top of the fact that not only did you have a black woman wanting to take the life, right, of another black woman using a vehicle, but she was also inevitably trying to take the life of that child by using the exact same vehicle, and she's out on bond. Color me surprised. Now, let me just be honest here for a moment. As soon as I heard Belleville, Michigan, I'm like, all right, I pretty much know what to assume. I pretty much know the demographics. And lo and behold, I was incorrect. And lo and behold, it just so happened to be somebody black doing this and acting ratchet, because the demographics for Belleville is overwhelmingly 70+% Caucasian, and then you have a 14% that is black/African American. Like I said before, you try so hard to really look for other stories, and then these stories just so happen to show up. Like literally, it's one click away. It's directly on the exact same page that you just looked at a whole nother story. And this is what happens. This is what happens. I fly all the way here within 2 seconds, and I'm looking at two black women, or potentially three, going by the footage or whatever, that are fighting. And then the most ratchet of them all, decided that she wanted to get into a vehicle and she wanted to fly around the gas station and start hitting cars. And then going after cars that had nothing to even do with the incident. Right? And then after she was said and done wrecking her car, she then got out of the car and then proceeded to go to the trunk. And that's when you saw Brad. I'm not sure if he's with the black woman or not. Maybe he was a bystander. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. Right? As soon as she had the child and he was like, all right, let's go, back to your vehicle, back to your car, whatnot, whatever. He looked back. He turned into Peter Parker real quick. He was like, spider senses is tingling. He turned back around, saw her pop the trunk. He was like, I'm out. He was like, I'm out. I ain't for this. It's like, I'm fine with like walking into your car, but this happening, I'm out. And he just web slinged out of there. He was out of there. The other woman that had the baby, she stood there and was waiting or watching to see what was going to take place. Like I said before, I'm not sure how it is that this woman is out here back on the streets. She just needs to be in prison. She's a danger not only to herself, but to everybody else involved. And then on top of this whole ordeal, right, she then decided to do this while a child was in somebody else's car, potentially also endangering the life of that child. And you mean to tell me that they allowed her to bond out and go on her own recognizance so that she could come back to court? Wow. And people want to talk about how men don't get any type of time and they're not kept behind bars for the crimes that they do. This woman, we literally witnessed and saw everything that took place, that she was a part of, and how dangerous she is. Just imagine this. Just imagine if she was a horrible driver and she decided to GTA this whole thing, and instead of hitting a car, she hit one of the gas pumps, and now gas is spraying. But because she still wants to drive, and you have the car falling apart, now you got metal scraping the ground along with gas, which then is inevitably going to cause sparks, metal with concrete, sparks, and then one of those sparks ends up hitting the gas. Now what? There's a huge potentiality for a lot of things that could have very possibly taken place, because we've seen videos like this before where people get beside themselves and they want to get overly emotional and they decide to do things like this, not only affecting their lives and the lives of other people, but the lives of other pedestrians in their vehicles. Because once something like that just so happens to potentially blow up, then you got debris that's going to be raining and that's going to shoot forth into people's vehicles. So, like I said, I'm not sure who the judge is, but they need to be off the bench when dealing with stuff like this. This more than likely is not something that they should directly deal with. They should allow somebody with more expertise and that can assess the potentiality of a situation to the how severe it could have gotten, and also the severity of the situation as it unfolded, as we were clearly able to see in the video. At no point in time should this woman ever be out in the streets. She needs to be locked up, put in prison for a very long time, so that she can sit there in a cold cell and think about the consequences and think about everything that she did and also what could have potentially happened. This is ridiculous. And this is one of the main things that I've stated before. Yo, black women, there are things out here that you can't control, and there are things out here that you can control. This is a situation that is within control, because as I've stated before, if you get to these women when they're young, they don't end up ratchet. They don't end up rabid and wild going out here and doing these things. Like I said before, regardless of how much of an individual you feel or that you think that you are, when the world views a video where they see two black people engaging, two black women engaging in things like this, they're not looking at this as an individual basis, because they're in their own little world, in their own little country, town, whatever it is. They're going to judge this as a whole, like, oh, this is how black women get down. This is what black women do. And there's nothing that you're going to be able to say to make them change their mind, because that's their view. That's how they're going to view it up until further notice. But due to the fact that we have more footage of black women engaging more and more as the days and the months and the years go by of this type of scenario or situation, among other things, best believe that people in the world are going to view, judge, and treat black women a certain type of way. If you think that it is bad for you right now as a black woman, just wait 10 to 15 to 20 years from now, when all of this stuff that I'm saying, when it becomes the everyday norm. Just wait, because it's going to happen.